Hello, everyone. Hi there. A nice full house in Haddock's Hall. I'm Barry Edelstein, Erna Fincy Viterbi, Artistic Director of the Old Globe. I'm thrilled to welcome you to our Carl and Vicki Zeiger Insight Seminar for Regency Girls. Thanks for coming. So the Old Globe makes theater that lives beyond the stage. And sometimes that living beyond the stage takes a literal form with the work that we do in the communities around San Diego, touring our Shakespeare play and doing various theater programming at institutions all around San Diego County beyond our stages here in Balboa Park. But sometimes beyond the stage is a metaphorical idea, that the theater lives with you after you see a play and stays in your mind and your memory and your heart and your emotional life. And so we want to honor that sense of theater living beyond the stage to help our audiences understand how we make that happen. How do we make a show on our stage that somehow gets under your skin and makes your foot start to tap and makes you giggle and makes you laugh? And so this series is meant to pull back the curtain and show you behind the scenes and invite some of the major artists who come to San Diego to share their work with you. And tonight we have two absolutely extraordinary artists and wonderful human beings who are the book writers of Regency Girls. And we'll talk about what that means in a couple of minutes. What's a book writer? I read books. Doesn't a writer write books? What does that mean? And we'll talk about that. So I'm going to introduce them. And I think the easiest way to introduce these two amazingly funny and witty and inventive women is to say this. If you've watched television in the last 20 years, you've seen their work. These are two major, major writers of television comedy, and I'm just going to read a list of some of the TV shows that they've written for. The Simpsons, Seinfeld, Everybody Loves Raymond, Arrested Development, Veep, Scrubs, The Drew Carey Show, The New Adventures of Old Christine. They have, you'll tell me, ladies, whether I got this right or wrong. I believe it's 6 Emmy nominations and 1 win between them, although you'll set me straight if that's not right. So that's a lot of decorations. This is not their first time at the theater rodeo. They wrote a musical called The Pirate La-Di-Da at the Atlantic Theater in New York, where it had a very successful off-Broadway run. And I found this out today, they have a multi-show deal with ABC. So that's pretty swift. And, you know, if they play their cards right tonight, they'll get a multi-show deal with the Old Globe. So please welcome to the stage Jen Crittenden and Gabby Allan. Big step. Thank you. Thank you. All right,
Nice
water if you need. Well, how you both doing?
Great.
We're in the middle of previews. It's
How
so
should you be?
exciting. So we're exhausted
I know,
and great.
It's an amazingly sort of complicated time. Well, it's going spectacularly well. We've had 5 previews. The reception in there has been like a rock concert. So we're all feeling incredibly, incredibly excited at the Old Globe. Okay, so let me ask you this. Will one of you, both of you, I mean, I know you got a dog and pony that you've been working on this show for a while. Will you tell us what Regency Girls is?
Yes. Yeah, Gabby.
Oh, you want me?
You go.
Oh, okay.
This is our dog and pony. You.
Yeah.
You. No, you.
It's so awkward and delightful. No. Okay. Okay. What Regency Girls is?
Yeah. What's the show about? What is it?
What's the show about? Well, the story is about this young woman named Elinor Benton who gets pregnant out of wedlock. And so we all know what that means for women back in 1810. This takes place in the Regency era in England. So obviously, you know, she's done. That's her life's over. Family's life's over. It's a scandal, and it can really take down her entire family. So she must figure out what to do about it. Her betrothed is gone on a year-long journey, so she takes a carriage trip.
Let's not give too much away, though.
Okay.
Can we say, because you guys are about to see it, can we say it's about 4 women who, sort of like the Wizard of Oz, go on this adventure where they each need something, and by the end, they get what they need, but it's not originally what they thought it might be.
That's really good.
So
Thank you. See, of course you should have answered the question. She always does this to me. She's like, you do it.
I
And then
set
I do
her
it.
up.
And she's like, I got it.
I set her up. I'm like, go ahead. All right, I got this, honey.
But that was great.
Okay,
You
good.
write
Yes,
that down. Yeah.
It's a comedy. It's a road trip comedy set in England in 1810, right?
Yes, correct.
Yes.
And people have been kind of saying, well, it's Pride and Prejudice meets Bridesmaids, right?
Yes, yes,
Sort of
yeah,
the
yes.
tone, because
Yes,
it's
that's the
1810.
tone.
You got the nice, beautiful dresses and the men who look so handsome in their cutaway coats, and it's sort of a crazy. Yeah, there's slapstick in it, and there's wonderful wit in it, and it pulls at your heartstrings every once in a while. It's really a wonderful, rich show. Okay, their songs, the music is by Curtis Moore, and the lyrics by Amanda Green, both of whom very, very accomplished writers themselves with long musical theater and television credits. So let me ask you this question, and we all three of us had dinner a little while ago. We have a mutual friend in common who's a super smart guy, like a really, really, really smart guy. And he called me up when he's like, hey, can I ask you something? What is the book of a musical? Like, what is it that they've actually done down at your theater? So what is the book of a
Wait,
musical?
I'll take this because I want to quote Jen's mom.
Okay.
It's the stuff between the songs that she'd rather not hear.
My mom came to a workshop and she's like, it's going so great. It's just like song after song with nothing else. It's fantastic. And I was like, okay, Mom, I love you too.
Yeah.
But it is that. It is the scenes that come between the songs, but it's also the shape and the narrative arc of the whole story. And so Curtis and Amanda and Gabby and I work really well together. So it is a collaborative four-way thing. But traditionally, the book writers, they shape the story, they shape the narrative, they decide what the character arcs are and all that stuff. And they write it, and then the lyricist and composer determine where the song spots are, and then they put in their beautiful songs. And it's sort of, a lot of people work very separately. And because of COVID, we had the chance to really get comfortable working separately but together, and it's been a very collaborative arrangement, which I think really pays off because there's no tonal differences. One goes right into the other, and it seems to fit hand in hand, and it's also just been a real joy to work with two super talented people who do something I could never do. So it's been fun.
So it really is. It's the scenes, the non-musicalized scenes. But the thing that I think most people don't really understand is it's the dramatic structure itself.
Correct,
right?
yes.
It's who the characters are. It's what the characters want. It's how the story unfolds. And I want to ask you about this, in some cases, the book writers will say, and now there's a song. And I've worked with book writers here who will say, now there's a song stuff, and write like this paragraph of things, and it'll say, and then on some enchanted evening, we will go out and see, and the lyricist will lift a phrase out of the book writer's song stuff. Is that how you did it?
Well, we actually did, because we worked so collaboratively with Amanda and Curtis, we didn't necessarily put song spot because we talked so much with them about where the songs would go. But what does happen, and not to take anything away from Amanda Green, who we consider a genius,
she is
but
a genius.
often we'll write a scene and she will do something that they like to say. They like to eat it. And they say, we're going to eat your scene, and they'll just take the scene and musicalize it. So a lot of our jokes, and a lot of our jokes, so a lot end up in the song. So that's our contribution to a lot of the songs. So because you are telling the story through the music as well as obviously through the book, so those things need to be cohesive and they need to work well together. So we will, and often she'll say, we don't know what the song is yet, so would you guys mind just going off and writing a scene, and so that we understand what's happening here, and then we'll take it and musicalize it. So that does happen quite a bit.
And sometimes we do what you're saying too. It's just like, I don't know what they would be thinking here, just write. So we write a paragraph of crazy dialogue with some good stuff, some bad stuff, and she takes what she likes. And so there is that too, that version.
Yeah. So our audience here at the Globe knows that sort of one of the strange, niches of the Globe in the past couple of years is we've had a lot of Hollywood writers come here, right? Writers from, I shouldn't say Hollywood, writers from television and film, sometimes Hollywood, sometimes elsewhere, who've come here and worked in the musical theater. Steve Martin and Cameron Crowe and Jonathan Abrams and
Who?
Yeah, I know you never heard of them. So Steve Martin once upon a time, I worked on a play with him back in New York, and we ran into Wendy Wasserstein. And Wendy Wasserstein said to Steve, I understand you're writing a play. I guess you really needed that 3-figure deal, didn't you? So I have to ask you, right, two unbelievably accomplished television writers. I mean, working on the absolute best television comedy of the last 20 years. Why are you writing musical theater?
I don't know. No, well, we love theater. I mean, I grew up watching and going to musical theater. It was my whole family, giant musical theater buffs, lovers of musical theater. I started going very young. It's been so I'm a giant super fan of musical theater. That I think I've forced onto Jen
A little bit.
but so and we dipped our toe in a couple of times. With the Pirate Lottie Don, then we had another one that we were developing for a while, just through sort of relationships that we had. Hey, we have these ideas. Oh, this thing sounds like it could sing, because some things aren't meant to have music and some things are. But this idea in particular was so exciting to us that we. And I think, at the time we had day jobs, so we're like, great. So on the side, we'll do this, and now this is our day job.
This is your entire life.
Yeah, this is our entire life.
Because it was Amanda Green who had originally the idea for something. She's always wanted to write something about abortion, and she had a terrible idea, Abortion, the musical, and
Yeah, right.
yeah,
right.
terrible.
No one wants to.
So
yeah.
so she pitched that to Curtis. She and Curtis Moore, the composer, worked together a lot, and she pitched that to him, and he said, that's terrible, but maybe if we said it sometime in the past, we can approach it that way. And so then we got connected by a mutual friend, Frank Rich, the columnist and former theater critic, and we got kind of set up on a creative blind date. And as soon as we heard that idea, I remember we were working at Veep, and we were sitting across our desk looking at each other, and we were talking with Amanda on the phone. And as soon as she said that idea, we both looked at each other and were like, we have to do this. And so luckily we had an income, if you're talking about the 3-figure deal, luckily we had an income from television, and we could afford to take what turns out now to be 6 years of our lives. To do it, and it wasn't nonstop. We've done things to
Sustain.
we've done things in the meantime, but I think the four of us are really lucky to just feel passionate enough about this that whatever the medium was, we wanted in, and to have these songs and these talented musicians helping with this story is just really incredible.
So you're leaving out a little detail, which is that when Amanda went to Frank Rich and said, tell me the 2 funniest book writers you know, and Frank Rich said, you two, right? That's pretty nice.
Yes, that is my favorite part of the story.
Yeah, that's a good part of the story.
So when you leave here tonight, that is the one thing that you guys will take away. Who are the funniest, smartest writers? Frank Rich knows it's Gabby and Jen.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and because he's one of the producers of Veep, or was, right?
Yes,
Is that right?
that's why he was on Veep, but we had been fans of his because we read his reviews constantly from the New York Times.
You were fans of them?
Yes, because
He never reviewed us, so we
yeah,
were
exactly.
grateful. Yeah.
Exactly.
You reviewed me.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Well, that's the thing. So yes, you would not be a fan. In fact, I think. I mean, nothing personal, but.
A career is long. He's not writing the reviews anymore, and I'm still directing plays.
Exactly.
There you
He
go.
loves this show, by the way.
Yeah, that's very
Big
nice.
fan.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
no, he was the reason. I mean, at least I wanted to. Obviously, we wanted the job for at Veep for other reasons. But when I saw, I was like, is that the Frank Rich? Is he on the show? Mm-hmm. And yeah, so that's
Yeah, amazing transformation that he's made, right? Into this sort of creative career.
He's great with creative people, as are you, I would say. I don't know when we're going to lead up to this, but I do have to say that working at the Old Globe has been an incredible highlight. You people are so lucky to have this theater here. I mean, obviously you know that. Yeah. But to work with people who do this regularly and are at the top of their game, it's been such a joy, and it's saved so much time and angst and sweat to just be able to say, this is what we want to do, and have a whole team of really skilled artisans who can make it happen. So it's been a total joy.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and we've loved having you here. So, which raises the sort of the next question. Okay, so you've got this life in Hollywood, and the resources of a Hollywood studio are significant, and even an incredibly well-resourced theater like the Old Globe can't lay a finger on the things that a Hollywood studio can do. So I'm just curious about your sense of the world of theater. A couple of years ago, I directed a play by a very famous novelist, and I had him on the stage, and I said, "So what's your impression of the theater world?" And he said, "It's huggy." And that's true. Like, everybody in the theater hugs all the time. And if you're not from the theater world, it's weird because people are grabbing you and holding you all the time, right?
It's
strange,
true.
right?
It's
Isn't it
very
very huggy,
intimate.
intimate,
So
huggy world? Yeah.
Well, I went home for the weekend, and I said, and my son had a little cold, and I said, "You can't come near me. The actors are like seals. They're all lying on each other." And I said, I can't. I mean, I'm not involved in that seal pile, but like they do hug me a lot, and God forbid I get one of them sick, so I had to quarantine myself away from my family.
It's an incredibly strange world of it's intimate in that way, and people make incredibly deep emotional connections very, very fast.
Yeah.
But seriously, tell me about your sense of the culture of theater and what you make of the world immersed in the high end of it as it is here at the Old Globe.
Well, we've had the good luck of working in TV. You have the whole range of hits that have essentially and just limitless budget, whatever you want. When I worked on Seinfeld, we decided we wanted to do an episode that was shot completely on a different studio lot over a holiday with a whole different crew. And it was tripling the cost of the show, of the episode, and they were like, fine, whatever you guys want. And then you work on the new show that is just like, you have to bring your own lunch, and then you also have to pay for the person who's gonna go and move your car when the meter runs out. It's just very, and here, it's kind of the best of all worlds. Like, for example, I know the budget is minimal, but it looks, you guys will see, these costumes and the lighting and the set, it's gorgeous, and there's an inventiveness here that I haven't really seen in Hollywood. Don't tell anyone. Yeah. But the idea, like we had a scene, we won't spoil anything, where we needed a quick change, and it would have been ideal to have 2 dresses of the same color, but we could only afford 1. And so they figured out the workaround and how to make it happen. And Gabby and I are looking at each other. We can't afford another dress? What's happening? But we couldn't, and they fixed it. And you will never know watching this that was an issue. And so the creativity and the problem solving is off the charts. And it's also very inspiring because everybody loves what they're doing.
Yeah, and it makes it so theatrical. Those challenges become an opportunity to be theatrical and creative, where in TV you don't really have to think. Sometimes you do. I mean, there's always limitations, and in every medium you do.
Not on Seinfeld.
Well, not on Seinfeld. I didn't work on Seinfeld, by the way. I'm just riding her coattails. I didn't, but so you just work with what you have, but it does foster this creativity and inventiveness that then becomes so theatrical and so inventive and so much fun to watch, based on a limitation that at first you were sort of bummed about, and then becomes a gift.
Limitations are a hugely important ingredient to making great art, because otherwise it's just a big open free-for-all.
Yes,
you have to have some kind of rules. Not to say that, from the point of view of the guy sitting here, that's not a minimal budget over there next door. I just want to say.
Sorry.
Compared to Seinfeld, it is. Yeah.
Only compared to Seinfeld is it a minimal budget. Yeah. I mean, compared,
no,
yes.
It's
I mean,
true.
the lunch budget at Seinfeld is probably greater than the budget.
We got Porsches at Christmas.
That's not true.
No,
okay,
that's
good.
not
Okay,
no.
you had me going there.
No, but the actors did.
You had me going there.
Not the writers. The writers don't get this.
We got bikes.
But also, I've spent minimal time around the sets of television. But I know that, for example, the job of a director on a television show is extremely different from the job of a director on a musical, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just like gigantically different. And the hierarchies that are involved, and who's got the power in a situation, how time is managed and how it works, right? Enormously different.
Yeah, and that was a learning curve. You know, it is different, and the workflow is different, and what to expect each day, like the level of improvement or the number of changes you can make. In TV, sometimes things happen really quickly, and here it's a slower process. And to know that going in would have been helpful.
But we should have taken some sort of seminar on.
Yeah, no, but everybody was patient with us in learning this. But yeah, it's very different. And yeah, even the job that sounds self-explanatory, writer, director, those are different jobs too. So it's been super interesting.
Yeah. That's a really interesting observation, because I wonder, like, how could we have, I don't know, how would you begin to say, well, here's what you can expect about how this is going to work and that's going to work, you know? It's really interesting and hard. I'll tell you, when Cameron Crowe was here, it took him a really long time to understand that 4 bars of music with no one's mouth moving could tell a piece of story as effectively as him writing 2.5 pages of dialogue and having talking and singing going on. Right now, the guy is a genius. The guy is an absolute genius. But one of the joys for me of being around him was watching him discover the rules of this medium that were so new and different. You know, it's amazing to watch. And I feel that about the two of you, by the way. Watching you go through this process and figure out so fast how this thing works. Like super smart, like really fast. Oh, I can do that. Oh, I don't have to do that. He can take care of that. It's been amazing to watch.
Yeah.
It really
well,
has.
thank you. We're grateful to hear that, because it really was a giant learning curve. And I mean, you know, it was a benefit to be such a big musical theater fan, because I do feel like we came into it knowing that the music tells, you know, it's a musical. You know, as Curtis reminds me, it's not a scriptical. It's like, okay, calm down. So it is a musical, you know, and the music does a lot of heavy lifting. And then you get a fantastic actress who you'll soon see, and then she tells so much of the story on her face. And you're like, oh, we don't have to write this or that or this or that, because this wonderful actress is telling us so much by singing, and just the expression on her face makes our job so easy. So that, you know, you get, when you come here and then the collaborative effort starts, you get to see everybody pouring their hearts into it and what they offer, and then you start to learn, you know, where you fit in and what your contribution is and what it means and how to do it. But we were clueless about, you know, we're throwing lines at people. I mean, today we're throwing lines at people, and then we realized, wait, hold on, we have to, you know, there's a lighting cue and a music cue and there's a whole domino effect to changing one line. You know, so we've had to pull back and tell, is this really necessary? Do we really need this? Because in television, we're going to write it and you're going to do it, because if you mess up, we can shoot it 4 more times and that's fine, and we don't have to, you know, deal with all of these. It's not the giant domino effect that it is here. So that's been a bit of a learning curve too. Yeah.
So let me, you mentioned the A word. Abortion is a theme that gets explored in the piece. And obviously we're talking about it in all kinds of, I don't know, careful ways, complicated ways, female reproductive autonomy. You know, the Globe's been asking itself a lot of questions. How's the community gonna respond at a moment of political volatility? But let me ask you about, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What?
All
yes.
right, good.
Okay. Good. Right. So let me ask you about your experience on Veep, because I love Veep. I absolutely love Veep. And the thing about sometimes people ask me about this show, and one of the things I do say about it is that the tone is actually quite similar to the tone of Veep, right? It's got a sort of slight, you know, edgy thing going on. There's a little bit of foul mouth stuff going on. It's very, very female sexuality forward, right? Sort of wonderfully so. The women in the show are very, very own their sexuality in a wonderfully sort of positive and healthy way. So I'm you know, in that sense, Frank Rich was right. You're the 2 perfect people to do it. But I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about the trickiness of making comedy out of politics, out of these, and particularly about divisive political issues. How do you do it?
Well, I think that the thing it has in common with Veep is that it is a satire, you know, and so we kind of stick to realistic characters and realistic reactions to realistic moments, and it's just finding the irony that is always there, present somewhere. So nobody's doing anything crazy, outlandish. These are just people sort of reacting to what's in front of them, and that was similar to Veep, I think. There's definitely like exaggeration and humor in some of the characters.
Yeah, but some of the stuff that we deal with it's so real that you just tell the truth. And because of through looking at it through the lens of the past, just makes it funny. You're just telling the truth, and it just is funny because of where we are and where they were and how those things are sadly so intertwined at the moment.
Well, hopefully it's like it's a 1-2 punch. It's funny, and then you're like, oh my God, that's still what's happening.
Exactly.
So that's basically, if there was going to be one joke in the show over and over again, that's ridiculous. Oh no. It's still happening in very, very a variety of ways. In fact, we just realized one today that we had no idea. This line has been getting a laugh, and we're like, that's not that funny. Why are people laughing? And I shouldn't
spoil it. You can spoil one.
It's just one. One of the characters says, I want to talk about these tax exemptions, and then he says, your talk of tariffs is so hot. And we were like, why is that? Does anybody even know what a tariff? Oh, of course they do.
Everybody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that happened on Veep all the time. We would be writing these insane, ridiculous stories that then politicians would end up acting out, right in front of our eyes. So
we were told on Veep that we had a lot of politicians come in and speak to us on Veep, which was so fun and so fascinating. And one of the writers walked in on Mitt Romney in the bathroom. But they would tell us this is the most accurate show that's ever been on television, which is terrifying.
And that was then.
We'd think up the stupidest stuff for Jonah to do, and then Ted Cruz would do it. So and that's true. So you don't have to really, sometimes you're just not even making a joke. You're just, it helps to.
Yeah, and a kind of also I might say about it. There's a certain bravery about it, right? Because you got to be brave. There's telling the truth, but then there's telling the truth about stuff that sometimes isn't so easy to talk about, right?
Well, that's why we're grateful to be here. To be honest, it's to be able to have a forum to talk about the subject in a show like this here right now. That's a gift.
Yeah.
It's incredibly important to us, and that we've been given the opportunity to do that and share it with all of you. And beyond the stage is at this moment is
it's huge because art is being threatened and canceled and all over the place, and that we have a safe home here is incredible.
Yeah.
I
appreciate that. Yeah. No, it's been fun to watch, and again, spoiler alert. One of the achievements of the show is that it is not partisan in its. It examines this very loaded subject in a way that's really fair and really takes a bunch of different perspectives on it. And I've been so moved to watch the audiences over the previews that we've had just express what feels to me like a kind of gratitude that there's a space to talk about this kind of stuff, One of the most powerful experiences I've had being in the audience is that, some people upset about what's going on might want to protest. Some people might want to make a campaign contribution or do something like that. But some people maybe just want to sit in the dark where you can be anonymous and then clap. Where you're not going to be seen necessarily, And it reminds me of this thing about the theater that the ancient Greeks knew, which is it's a place where strangers can come together and sit in a crowd and think about big civic issues and either laugh about them or cry about them, gasp about them, And in its purest sense, that's what's going on here. And I think you guys have caught lightning in a bottle. I really do. Because it's really special.
Thank you.
Really, really an amazing thing to watch. Okay, so one other
keep
person.
Keep your expectations low.
Yeah. No.
You know what I mean?
No.
it's fine.
It's a hit. You heard it here. You heard it here first. It's a hit. Okay, one other person I do want to talk about, which is Josh Rhodes. So Josh Rhodes is a familiar figure to our audience. This is the director, choreographer of the show. He's done a lot of work here at the Old Globe. You saw his production of Cabaret, Guys and Dolls, Baskerville, which was in the Sherilyn Harvey White Theater. He was the choreographer of Bright Star. He's a really important member of the Globe's artistic family, right? An amazingly talented guy and the sweetest guy in the world. Just talk a little bit about working with Josh and about how that collaboration sort of goes.
Well, one thing, when we had first heard of Josh, well, we had heard of him because we had seen Spamalot on Broadway, and that was phenomenal. So we knew he was hilarious, and we knew that he had a deep history as a choreographer, and that really appealed to us because, as Barry said, this is the first act is essentially a road show. Like it's a road movie on stage, and so there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of scenes. It's cinematic in that there's a lot of scenes right on top of each other. You know, we're writing like smash cut to blah blah blah. Oh wait, this is theater. It's not a smash cut. It's a transition. But so it's a very complicated show in that it needs to move and it needs to go quickly. And so we knew, oh, Josh Rhodes will be able to make this happen. What we didn't know, or at least I didn't, was that his dramaturgical sense is so excellent, and he gave us such wonderful story notes and structure notes that we've been able to incorporate, and he sees things way more than just a choreographer who wants to be a director. Like, this is a lover of theater who has a really deep and intense knowledge, and it's been wonderful. So that was the surprise of what we got with Josh Rhodes.
Yeah, he always has his eye on the story, which as writers, you're so grateful, because not all directors do. And every time somebody gives a note, or we want to make a change, or we're looking at something, he always comes at it from the perspective of story, and that we are incredibly grateful for, because
because if you don't care about the story, there can be a million jokes and it's boring, you know. So that's always the crux of it.
He always has his eye on that. Yeah, and he's incredibly collaborative and a great guy and fun to work with, and he's been patient with us, and that's been.
And it's fun to watch him teach dance moves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Former hoofer himself.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
An amazing dancer.
Yeah.
So the show opens Thursday night. There's a couple more previews. Changes are in tonight, right?
Yeah,
So
a lot
what
of
kind
changes.
What kind of stuff? What kind of things have you been working on?
Well, one thing we've been trying to make cuts because although it flies by, it is a little long for a comedy. So you know, use your intermission, get some fresh air, and then come back in. But so there are some dialogue cuts, but there are also some song cuts that the actors had to learn today, which is complicated and really takes up a lot of brain space. So you guys are used to previews, and you'll see maybe there'll be some surprises. But I think it's I mean, there's definitely a few new jokes, but primarily we've been auditioning cuts and seeing what works and what doesn't. A few days ago, we put in something that we thought might have ruined the show completely, and we took that out. So that's good. Yeah. So we can make big mistakes here too, which is a part of the luxury, you know. Like this previews. I mean, I really didn't know how lucky we were getting all these previews. We get to hear a real audience respond to stuff, so we know what's working and what's not. So hopefully you'll hear things that work tonight.
Well, on Broadway, you'll get like a month or more. They preview these things on Broadway forever and ever. You're going to want to jump out a window. So the May just goes on and on and on and on and on. Well, the show's in amazing shape. It's a real treat and a real joy. And the two of you are so special. And I really meant what I said. It's been phenomenal to watch the two of you just figure out the world of the theater with such complete command and also grace and openness to all of us here. It's really been special to see. So, you know, you're in for a treat, San Diego, the birth of a brand new original musical comedy that is very, very, very special. So I look forward to welcoming all of you into the theater tonight and into the future. And please join me in thanking Jen and Gabby for their wonderful time. Thank you all, everybody.